I'm actually in your beautiful home right now.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and get into it. Def Comedy Jam 25th anniversary special.
Oh, that's streaming on Netflix now, and it was a fun experience. Having those people come back, like that reunion was exciting, and it was kind of shocking that they all showed up, honestly. I mean, to have Kat Williams show up, right? to have Dave Chappelle and Martin Lawrence and so many great people come back and celebrate. For me, it brought back a lot of memories, obviously, but it also was good it reminded me that when we started this project, the 25th anniversary, it reminded me that we needed to revisit this space, because what we did with Martin and Jamie and Bernie and Chris Tucker and Dave Chappelle and Steve Harvey and Kat Williams and Kevin Hart and all those people, they were underserved and underexposed, and Hollywood didn't see them. They would pick the more accessible, easy to digest comedians, but the big stars came from Edge and this cultural space that Hollywood doesn't see well. And so that's how they became famous, Def Comedy. So now I look 25 years later, and I'm looking at these comedians, some who were on Def Comedy Jam, and they still haven't gotten a break. There's this whole, they reach around the black community stars, and they choose comedians that are accessible and seem like they might be stars, but they never really make it, do they? We're still waiting. I have 14, 15 movies in development, and I'm waiting to put Kevin Hart in the next one, because there's no one else, because Hollywood is not giving a break to so many of the more edgy, creative voices. So we're now doing Def Comedy again, which will be airing very soon on HBO. So Def Comedy Jam, we shot 6 episodes for HBO, and Tony Rock's the host. And for me, there's so many talented people who are overlooked and underserved, and that's what we're doing. So Def Comedy 25 led to me rebooting the entire series.
Wow. Okay. Because I interviewed Lavelle Crawford a little while ago, and he pointed out that. Well, you said that the industry sets it up for only one black comedian at a time.
Yeah.
Explain.
It's proven fact.
No. Martin and Jamie and Cedric and Bernie and Chris and Dave Chappelle and Steve Harvey and Kat Williams, all of them happened at one time.
No, but right now.
It happened at one time.
It happened
There's
right
only one
now.
now because there's no expression. They need more. There's so many movies that need these voices, but they haven't built them. In other words, the white space exists. They know it exists. They know how many movies are sitting around waiting for Kevin Hart to be the lead, but they don't know how to pick them. And they don't have any, there's not a black agent in Hollywood, 1 or 2. And there's no senior people helping to make these choices who are cultural enough to understand it. So if they realize that even in the suburbs of Cleveland, these voices are very pop. They seem alternative, but they're pop. Like, imagine if it had been up to Hollywood to choose when I made Nutty Professor and I put Jay-Z and Foxy Brown, Ain't No Nigga, on the soundtrack. They would never. They didn't want it on the soundtrack. I'm not going to tell you the fight I went through, but it didn't matter what they thought about music, because music plays whether they like it or not. But the gatekeepers have to spend a lot of money to put a star in a movie or developing star in a movie. And they're going to go with what they feel comfortable with. Where, again, music you throw out the window, it's going to stand on its own. But an actor, a director, a writer, a voice that is going to need millions of dollars to be exposed, those voices have to pass the litmus test. And that litmus test from the creative execs in Hollywood may not be inclusive of their voice. They may not understand their voice. And that's where they've had to struggle. So I believe that we can build a lot more voices with the proper exposure. And hopefully HBO will, if we had all that success before, if we have a 1/10 of that success, we'll have 3 or 4 more leads. We'll have a Jamie Foxx. We'll have a Bernie Mac or a Chris Tucker. Something will come out of it. And that's why we're doing it again.
What happened to Chris Tucker on the anniversary special? Is there a story behind this?
No, not that I want to tell. He couldn't make it.
You couldn't make it?
No.
That's too bad, man.
Chris Tucker is missed. I mean, obviously, he's a very talented guy, and there's so many things he could have done over the last 20 years or so. And I think that, he's been very selective. And I think because of it, I wouldn't say he suffered because, his own personal happiness I can't comment on. But we suffered because we would like to have seen a lot more of him over the last 25 years. He's a brilliant actor. Think of Dead Presidents. He's hilarious. Think of so Chris Tucker is a brilliant guy, and I would love to have heard more of his voice over these last 20 years.
Why do you think that happened, though? Why do you think he only did like a rush hour every so often? And
Everybody's different. A lot of talent don't like to do a lot of work. A lot of talent likes to do all the work. And, and somewhere in between, a proper manager can help them and they can make their own choices where they expose themselves so they have the most success in the world. But his personal happiness should always be first. So I don't know what his choices or why he did so little over these years.
Okay, so you did the special with Netflix, but you're doing the series with HBO. Okay, how come HBO didn't pick up the 25th anniversary? Because that's the natural place where it should go, right?
That's a story that, I just thought it'd be fun to have it another exposure, and so did Netflix, so we did it.
Okay. But now you're doing 6 episodes on HBO.
That's right.
So are these all new comics in the same way?
No, you've seen some of them, and they still haven't made it all the way to the top some. Tony Rock's a brilliant host.
Yeah.
And he's not been exposed in this way. And a lot of the people you've seen, but, they said, there was a lot of discussion, so people have seen them. I don't give a fuck, they haven't seen them enough. Like HBO, or not HBO, any of the executives watching a comedian, they'll pick what their test is, and sometimes you see something and you like it and you think it's great and has greater opportunity or it has greater potential than Hollywood sees it, you keep putting it in front of them again. Just because you saw Kevin Hart once doesn't mean he's not going to be Kevin Hart, the giant. They saw Kevin Hart and didn't like him. He made himself. They saw these stars. They saw J.B. Smoove on Def Comedy Jam 25 years before they put him on Curb Your Enthusiasm. 20 years. So just because they saw him don't mean shit. They saw a lot of these black comedians that never gave them the break that they could have capitalized on, that they were ready to capitalize on, because maybe they didn't see their potential the way someone like me might envision them.
So I just interviewed Godfrey.
Okay.
And we talked about, Godfrey was one of these comedians that's always kind of been on the verge.
Yes.
Never quite broke through to like a Kevin Hart mainstream level, but has always had like dope work. And when I interviewed him, like his impressions were on another level.
Cause I could do, Jay-Z, yo, what's up, man? It's me, it's Hova, oh shit. I could do that. When he does that laugh? I'm in the building, oh shit.
There's a lot of brilliant guys, again, who haven't gotten their shot or the right role. Sometimes the right role is what matters, and where they expose a part of them that everybody just falls in love with, So it's my job as a producer to find a way to give them their voice in a way that people can digest it and it'll flourish.
He pointed out that,
like, look at Steve Harvey, a guy like Steve Harvey. He hosts 8 fucking shows, man. I'm not trying to be mean, but white people, there are other black people that can host shit.
Well, Steve Harvey is also a communicator. We talked about Chris Tucker and his willingness to go out and go. Steve Harvey is a go-getter. He's brilliant. There's a combination of talents you need. Mostly you have talent, right? First it's talent. But if you're difficult and you're talent, you may not get the role that you think you deserve. Where a producer might find someone easier to work with or more ambitious, and you got to show up on time. You got to stay in your hustle. You got to be able to work with people. These are other talents that go along with your ability to express yourself. You got to be able to get along with people. And I think that Steve Harvey is a hustler. He's a multi-talented, right? Aside from being a great stand-up and a great comedian and funny as hell, he's a great communicator. And aside from all that, he's a great businessman.
Well, you talked about the comedians that you had on Def Comedy Jam, the ones that made the biggest impact. They didn't really do jokes.
Well, they did jokes. I mean, a lot of times, we love to hear a commentary that's biting and real about our social and political climate. And we make fun of it because it's so difficult to digest otherwise, or difficult to say and to sell America. When you tell America about white supremacy straight on, they kind of deny it exists, or that thing, some people, some in America would deny. But if you say it as a joke, that's funny, it's true, right? A lot of truth can come out of comedians' mouths in ways that people can at least think about them. Same as music, you can say things and people maybe digest it. More in comedy. We spoke before about Dick Gregory. He told America things that other people couldn't say to it. She didn't believe, America didn't want to believe some of the things Dick Gregory said, or believed him and didn't want to confront him. And that's not only Dick Gregory, it's all the way throughout black comedy, where we've been able to say, well, once we got a voice. I mean, before that we were minstrels, but when we got a voice, we were able to tell some truths about our condition and the suffering of black people in America that otherwise, saying it, it would not be not only digested, but we want people to think about these things. So we get to say things like "fuck the police" in comedy, right? Say things like talk about Donald Trump in ways that maybe you couldn't say it if it wasn't a joke.